Dillian the Body Snatcher White here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
Right, there's an article here on Boxing Scene, which I shall put in the description box for you guys to have a read for yourself. Within this article, Dominic Breazeale makes some statements that I'm not going to read out in this one, and so does the WBC President Mauricio Sulaiman. So go have a little read of that for yourself. For me, the part that I'm really interested in is Dominic Breazeale going in on Mauricio Sulaiman, on the WBC President, because he's quite unhappy with the fact that he is the WBC mandatory, but he's ranked number 4. He's unhappy with the fact that Mauricio Sulaiman, the WBC president, is sanctioning a rematch between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, and also they want to enforce Anthony Joshua for undisputed. Now, Dominic Breazeale, he's very up for the Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder because he's undisputed. Him as a boxing fan, he's more than happy with that. What he isn't happy with is the fact that they allowed Tyson Fury to come in ahead of him. Regardless of what you think about Dominic Breazeale, no matter what position that he's in, he's officially the WBC mandatory. Personally, I'm not in for it. I don't believe he should be the mandatory. The WBC dropped the ball on that one. What they should have done was made Damian White versus Dominic Breazeale. Now, within this article, Dominic Breazeale, of course, he goes in on Mauricio Sulaiman. He's asking the question, why is it that you guys are allowing this rematch? I understand that the draw was controversial and I had Tyson Fury winning that fight. But at the same time, I'm the mandatory. I want my title shot. I've been waiting here for 13 months as mandatory and you haven't enforced it yet. Because at the end of the day, the WBC, their rules are, it should be every 12 months, the WBC champion should face his mandatory, or there or thereabouts, okay? And already it's on 13 months and they haven't enforced it yet. And with Wilder being WBC Heavyweight Champion for, 4 years now, he's fought one mandatory in Dominic Breazeale. So there's the first one that Breazeale really needs to address, is the fact that he's number 4 ranked in WBC, but he's the mandatory. He became the mandatory because he beat Eric Molina. That should never, ever, ever have been for an official mandatory position. That's a big bull drop from the WBC. As I said, it should be Damian White versus Dominic Breazeale. Number 1, who is the WBC silver champion in Damian White versus Dominic Breazeale. But WBC didn't want to do that. They sanctioned it between Breazeale and Molina, which is absolutely crazy, and wanted to make Damian White versus Luis Ortiz for the secondary mandatory. In other words, another 18 months down the line, which is absolutely insane. So I understand what it is that Dominic Breazeale is saying and where he's coming from. He's saying that, how much longer do I have to wait? You have to draw a line in the sand somewhere and say, listen, we've got our mandatory. He needs his title shot now, okay? But at the same time, he's saying he's quite happy for Wilder and Joshua to fight because it is for undisputed. But fact is, he's also saying they had their chance. Both of them took different directions, they didn't get it done, so therefore move on, give me my title shot. So from that point of view, I can agree what it is that he's saying, and I do give him sympathy for it. But for me, he's questioning, and he wants to sit down with Mauricio Sulaiman, the WBC president, and say, why is it that I'm the mandatory, but I'm ranked number 4, and why is it you're keeping me on the sidelines? So my answer to him is, it's a fair question, that's for sure, no doubt about it, and he should ask that question. But likewise, I could counteract that one and say, right, so you're number 4, yet you're the mandatory. So I can counteract that and say, okay, well, Damian White is number 1. Why isn't he the mandatory? So there's that one. Also, he says he's number 4. You're number 4 because you haven't had a fight in 13 months. You can say that you've been waiting for Deontay Wilder. You can say that you've been in the gym. And yes, of course, the WBC and Team Wilder have been stringing him along and promising him a fight and then not doing the fight and this, that and the other. I get it. Okay, but fact is, you could have been fighting yourself. In 13 months, no excuses. You could have been fighting somebody else while you were waiting. That's why you've dropped down the rankings a little bit. That's why you're not number 1. In fact, you couldn't be number 1 anyway because Damian White is the WBC silver champion. Okay? Yes, the WBC dropped the ball. Yes, the WBC should be making Breazeale and Damian White for the official mandatory. Okay? And yes, there is some legitimate beef between Wilder and Breazeale. But let's be realistic. As much as Dominic Breazeale does have a very good puncher's chance, and yes, he is very, very durable, he is very tough and can bang very, very hard. Problem is, he's slow. Can he land on Wilder? That's the question. For me personally, with the way that Wilder's been acting over like the last year and his cherry picking and his ducking of Joshua and the promising and this, that and the other, listen, I don't care who Wilder fights now. I'm kind of at the point where I don't actually care anymore, just as long as he loses that belt. I want somebody to rip that belt away from him. Tyson Fury did it, but they didn't give him the decision. They screwed Tyson Fury, okay? Now, as far as Breazeale goes, this is where I need to have my say against Eddie Hearn, because he is also a culprit in all of this. I've said this before and I'll say it again. And this point here, with everything that's been going on now, proves that my original statement was correct and Eddie Hearn dropped the ball. I'm not having a go at Eddie Hearn. I'm just saying that he needs to look more at Dillian Whyte's career rather than what is it that Dillian Whyte is going to do to earn me money. That's my point. Okay, because I've never felt that he's really got Dillian Whyte's best interest at heart. Dillian Whyte has always been a backup. All the time, he's always been a backup. For me, Dillian Whyte should never be a backup for anybody. Okay, he is a legitimate contender. He could legitimately beat Joshua. He could legitimately beat Tyson Fury. He could legitimately beat Deontay Wilder. He could legitimately beat anybody. Likewise, they could legitimately beat him. Okay? But the fact is, had Eddie Hearn had done what I said in the very beginning, when all this was, this original mess was put out by the WBC, making Breazeale versus Molina the mandatory, and then trying to enforce Dillian Whyte versus Luis Ortiz for the secondary mandatory, which is ridiculous, I said to Eddie Hearn, because you guys would have seen the interview as well, where I said, oh, so Dominic Breazeale is a realistic option for Dillian Whyte. Because I was always under the impression that Dominic Breazeale didn't want the Dillian Whyte fight. But Eddie Hearn said, no, it's an option. But our main goal is to fight Derek Chisora in the rematch. So my point right there was that I was right. And this isn't about bragging rights or anything. This is about what's best for Dillian Whyte's career. Don't get me wrong. His fight with Derek Chisora this weekend, very, very intriguing, very, very interesting, and he's going to earn Dillian Whyte a hell of a lot of money. At the end of the day, he should always do what is best for him and his family, which is earning money, it's prize fighting. So fair play on him for choosing Derek Chisora. He wouldn't have got more money fighting anybody else outside of Derek Chisora right now. And that's just how it is. So fair play on him for doing that. But from a perspective of going forward, Dillian Whyte versus Dominic Breazeale was my choice. Where a lot of people are saying that Dillian Whyte should have accepted the Luis Ortiz fight. And I'm saying, no. It should be Dominic Breazeale. And had that route happened, had Eddie Hearn had been not so hell-bent on trying to increase his own bank account with Dillian Whyte and Derek Chisora, and actually put Dillian Whyte's career and his future potentials ahead of his own financial gain, then the situation that he's currently in right now wouldn't be happening. He should have made more of an effort to make the Dillian Whyte versus Dominic Breazeale fight. That's what should have happened. Because this weekend, it would have been Dillian Whyte versus Dominic Breazeale for the official WBC mandatory. So therefore, Dillian Whyte and everybody else wouldn't be saying, but I'm the silver champion, I'm number one, I should be the mandatory. Dominic Breazeale shouldn't be saying, well, I'm number 4, but yet I'm the mandatory, but I'm not getting my title shot, and I should be number 1. All this situation wouldn't be happening. Dillian Whyte versus Dominic Breazeale. This weekend, Dillian Whyte beats Dominic Breazeale. He then becomes the official mandatory. Okay? So, the situation that we could have been in, had Eddie Hearn had thought about this, was that, okay, so Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, that was a gift draw. That is for sure. Tyson Fury should have won. Okay, but facts are, it's now officially on record, it's a draw. So what happens now is they have to go through the whole negotiation things. Yes, the WBC are sanctioning it. They haven't ordered it. They've sanctioned it, okay? But likewise, both Wilder and Fury are free to fight whoever it is that they want. They don't have to fight each other now, even though that they had a contract originally which guaranteed a rematch either way, which is complete gash. But still, okay, so we're currently in a situation, Damian White beat Dominic Brazil this weekend, and then Joshua and Tyson Fury fight. They do all that they can to make that fight. In that situation, the WBC would have had no option but to enforce the mandatory on Wilder next. Because Wilder's only options right now is a rematch with Fury, unification with Joshua, or Dominic Brazil. He cannot fight anybody else. All this talk about rematch with Luis Ortiz, no, it cannot happen. The WBC have already said this. So had Damian White beaten Dominic Brazil this weekend, he would be in that position where Wilder had to rematch Fury, unification Joshua, or fight Damian White. So if Joshua and Fury fight in a mega fight, probably the biggest fight in boxing, right? Let's be real about it. Them two fight, Wilder had no choice but to fight Damian White next, which is what I always wanted. I always want Damian White to get in there with Wilder. For me, Damian White is all wrong for Wilder. All wrong for him. And he will catch Wilder and knock him spark out. Straight up, he will catch him and beast him. Okay? Therefore, Damian White will be the WBC Heavyweight Champion. And he doesn't have to rematch Wilder because it was a mandatory. It's not a voluntary. So no rematch. So therefore, Damian White versus the winner of Joshua Fury. Two Brits undisputed. So Eddie Hearn would have not only helped, or I don't know, maybe all promoted or co-promoted even Joshua versus Fury, but then he would have co-promoted or all promoted White versus Wilder. And then the undisputed. So that's 3 fights right there that Eddie Hearn could have been involved in. But because he stalled and really wanted the Derek Chisora fight, the rematch, this whole thing is out the window. See, so sometimes, Eddie, you do actually drop the ball. You don't think about the bigger picture. You say that you do, but you don't. You say you listen to the fans, but sometimes you don't. On this one, had you have listened and actually made White versus Brazil for this weekend, you'll now be sitting pretty where you could have been promoting Joshua versus Fury, Wilder versus White, and then the White versus Joshua or Fury for undisputed. Had you have really thought about it, and I actually said this in the beginning as well. But it is what it is, but Dominic Brazil is correct. He does need to sit down with Mauricio Sullivan and say, what the hell is going on? Why are you sanctioning a rematch when I've been mandatory for over 13 months? You were supposed to have called this mandatory fight. It should be me. And if Dominic Brazil does end up fighting Wilder next because Tyson Fury chooses not to do the rematch or whatever the hell it may be, I hope Dominic Brazil removes Wilder's head from his shoulders. Not literally, of course, but knock him out. Drop your thoughts below. Click that thumbs up and, of course, subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.